Is diving in a swimming pool really that dangerous? The answer is yes, it is. Well, provisions can be made to have the pool be deep enough and wide enough, long enough to have a safe diving envelope for a reasonably sized diving board. The reality is that diving into pools in general is dangerous and it is responsible for a lot of serious injuries. Diving into a swimming pool typically is, I think, after a lifetime in the pool industry, I think something that makes it dangerous is you are complacent from being a kid. I know I was a kid. I grew up with a diving board on my swimming pool. We spent years jumping in off of that thing and we never had any problems. But here's part of the problem is you're 3.5 feet tall when you're a kid. And if you have a 9 foot deep swimming pool, which is what I had, there's a lot of room there to work with. Now, as an adult, I'm 6 feet tall, and if I raise my arms over my head, that's, 8 feet that I'm covering. So that same 9 foot deep swimming pool, if I dive into that as an adult, I'm barely through the water with my feet when my hands are contacting the long slope of the pool. And that's worth mentioning as well. A lot of people don't realize the danger from diving often isn't just that it's too shallow. I mean, it could be the problem, but often the pool might have a suitable depth. 9 feet, for example, I think is a pretty common depth for pools with a diving board. But the long slope, I mean, the deep end pad is small. It's not as big as you think it is. And especially if you're jumping with any kind of, exuberance, you're going to clear that deep end pad entirely. So you're actually contacting the long slope of the pool, which is much shallower than the overall depth of the deep end. And I know I've been chin checked a couple times as an adult diving in and not really paying attention to what I'm doing. And if you're not shallow diving or pulling up hard, you basically, chin check the bottom of that the long slope because you're as tall as the pool is deep. And so I think that's how a lot of accidents happen is, you get complacent thinking about it from a lifetime of doing it as a kid. Now as an adult, you're much taller and longer. I should obviously mention that alcohol is a factor for a lot of diving accidents in swimming pools where people might not know your pool, they might not know how deep it is, they might be too inebriated to make a good judgment call about how shallow to dive or how quickly to pull up. And so the bottom line is it does have a lot to do with it. And in general, it's a pretty good idea to enforce a no diving policy in a residential swimming pool. If you're talking about a commercial swimming pool, which averages 12 foot in depth or more, that's so much more room to work with than 8.5, 9 foot, 9.5 feet deep. And here's another thing worth mentioning. Yeah, after a lifetime of working in the pool industry, people by and large have no idea how deep their pool is. The average pool owner, when I ask them how deep their pool is, they'll say 10 foot or 12 feet. And I'll say, wow, that's super deep. They don't build them like that anymore. And they say, oh, no, we had it built 15 years ago. It's like a 18 by 36 vinyl pool. And I say, okay, did you measure the pool or are you just eyeballing it based on the depth? And then they say, well, I'm eyeballing it. And I tell them, look, there's no way your pool is 10 feet or 12 feet deep. It's probably like 7.5 feet deep, 8.5 feet deep, especially when you see the hole empty, like when you drain the pool. It looks so deep when you're standing on the deck. That's just a trick of the eye. And after again a lifetime working in the pool industry, if you haven't measured it and you think your pool is 10 feet or 12 feet deep, it probably isn't. It's only like super old concrete pools that would be that deep in a residential environment. Most residential pools are not all that deep. Diving is a concern. You need to take great care with diving into a residential swimming pool of any depth. But in general, maybe just consider enforcing a no diving policy and eliminating that risk altogether. If you found this information helpful, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can check out my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com.